Bubbles with Bethany. I'm so excited because we have a super fun kind of format change up a little bit today because we have my lovely and wonderful mindset strategist, Susan Hanstead, co-hosting today with me so that we can get the very most out of talking to and having a roundtable discussion with the amazing Katie Neason. Katie, I'm so impressed by you. A couple things. One is I've never before and I love all my guests. Okay. I love all my guests. So anybody who's watching, I don't want you to be like, screw you. I've never before had people be like, oh my God, Katie, I love her so much, texting me, not just DMs, but like texting me on my phone. Oh my God, Katie, I love her. Like, how did you get her? So like,
Wow. I've never had anyone do that to me either.
so welcome. And the other thing that I'm really so impressed by is your real estate investing ethos. Like you are developing to better your own community. And I find that so compelling. And I just love watching you. It's like my own little reality TV show watching you. And so I'm so grateful to have you here so we can talk about you and all the amazing things that you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us on Bubbles. Cheers to you, Katie.
Thank you. I am excited to be here. Cheers to my bubbly water.
Yes. Health fun.
I love it. And I have two people to me. I'm like the first person that it's required two hosts to make sure I get managed well. I don't take that personal at all. I totally get it. Somebody's told you something out there, like it's going to take two of them to keep her under control.
We got to rein it in.
Rein it in, baby.
I do want to encourage everyone to wait until the end because, as usual, we have an amazing giveaway for you and a super fun, easy to win game at the end of this. So I'll let Katie tell you all about that later. And so you're going to want to stick around until the end. And also, I want to encourage everybody use the chat function or the hand raise function. Pepper her with questions, pepper us with questions. We want you to engage. We want you to talk with us as well. This is a conversation. It's definitely not the Bethany show. So I want everyone to get what they want out of this. So please type in your questions or use the hand raise function. Enjoy. We want you all to be here. And Susan, thank you, because it's always just a better conversation when we have Susan in the room.
Oh.
So everyone's going to get a chance to ask questions, but the thing that I always tell them is you have to wait. I get to go first because it's not the Bethany show, but my name is in the title. So I'm going to ask you first. My favorite question, I have two questions that I always ask guests. And the reason for that, and actually the whole reason behind even having Bubbles with Bethany is that I am sort of on this mission to understand, one, what people describe themselves as their unique superpower, right? There's kind of what you put out there and it's like what does Katie think Katie's unique superpower is? And so we'll start with that. I want to know, like, what is it? What lights you up? What's your lane?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need a therapist to tell me that. I don't feel like I have an amazing superpower, but I guess I feel like I'm good at and that I implement is I can see a vision just bright enough to get people excited, and I'm dysfunctional enough to bring a whole team with me to actually execute it. And so I love working with the team and sharing the vision and then getting it across the finish line, letting other people help drag it across. So I guess maybe that's it. I don't know.
I like that. I like that. Now we don't have a therapist necessarily in the house, but we do have somebody that can help kind of pull that superpower out of you because that's one of Susan's unique superpowers is that she can pull your superpower out of you. But I do
Cool.
love how you summed that up. I think that that's exciting. And frankly, whatever you're calling it dysfunction, I think that that is what a lot of people spend a lot of time and money and energy trying to figure out how to do, which is to leverage their OPs. The OPE is what I say, other people's everything. A lot of us are not dysfunctional enough, evidently, because we try to do it all ourselves. And that
Yeah.
is definitely not the way to get ahead or scale.
Yes. I totally agree with that. The one thing I'm able to do is quickly identify what my incompetencies are and what motivates me. And I'm a high emotional person. Like, I'm all in, all out. I have a really hard time just being even kill. And so I feel like that's why I need people around me, right? Because I need people to be like, hey, bring it down a notch, or the whole world's not falling apart. And if I'm not interested in doing something, like, It is so hard to make me do it. I love this question, and I cannot believe someone asked me what my
But I don't want you to say
oh
don't spoil it because I want Susan to guess based on hearing you because Susan does this with
there you go.
all of her members. So before you say it, Susan, can you guess just from hearing this what Katie's Enneagram type might be? I'm totally putting her on the spot right now. She's like,
Wow,
screw.
totally on the spot. And side note, I am a therapist, so but we do have a
Nice.
therapist here if you need one.
Okay.
If you need
Well,
one.
yeah, I didn't mean to. So
No, no,
yeah,
no,
I
no,
don't
no.
use it that
I
way.
think I would have to listen a little longer. We do use Enneagram in our programs, and I love it. And so I think I'd have to listen a little longer before I
Yeah.
could like instantaneously know what it is. But I'm hearing a little number one there right now. But let's keep
Oh,
going.
yes, we should totally, because I want your assessment at the end, and then I'll tell you what I know.
Okay, so yes, keep talking. So before then, all right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit then because I do want to kind of come back and talk about how that unique superpower has helped you build your empire. But before we do that, one of the other questions that I always ask people is what wealth consciousness means to them. And there's two reasons for that. One is it's very important to me to support people in helping them build their wealth in a conscious way. But then two, that means something different to everybody is what I've learned. And so for
Yeah.
me to help people, I need to understand what they mean by it. And so I'm sort of collecting all the data on what everybody I know has that mean to them.
So to me, this is a deep question, but I think it aligns with what I do because I believe that we will have better communities, a better America if we have small business owners in real estate owned by individuals. And so, unfortunately, it's probably not the most productive way to do real estate because lots and lots of development is driven by a spreadsheet. Like it is a financial instrument. And that's why we get lots of 400 to 800 unit apartment buildings that look the exact same no matter where in the country you go, with a whole bunch of drive-by strip centers. But if you think like, where do I want to go vacation? And that city that you picture in your mind, it's not some cul-de-sac neighborhood with a strip center Best Buy that conjures up amazing memories. It's probably some cool downtown, like a New York, San Francisco, Chicago, if it's here locally, or, a Florence or some place like that in Europe. And what's crazy is why aren't we creating places that feel like where we want a vacation instead of creating a bunch of junk and then traveling to where we actually wish our place looked like? So to me, it's finding a great balance between building things that actually make the community stronger, that's better for the people and better serves the local business owners than just building to try and optimize the highest return and get out of the highest profit for your investors.
I love that. Okay, so building communities that you not only want to live in, but that you would want to visit if you didn't live in them. Did I
Yeah.
sum that up in kind
Yeah. The thing I like to tell, I have a lot of friends who live over in Maui.
of? Mhm.
And so they always tease me about it. But the thing I like to tell them, and there's a kernel of truth in this, some people choose to run off to live in a beautiful place, and some people choose to build a beautiful place where they're at. And my goal is to build a beautiful place where I'm at.
I love that. I love that so much. That's okay, so that is a different answer than I've ever gotten, and I really love that because it kind of makes it a more sort of robust um landscape if you have all these different ways that it's described. And so you're doing that where you are. Let's talk a little bit because everybody who joins us, they're all, I mean, it's who we know, right? It's real estate investors, right? Active and passive real estate investors. And so mostly active, I think. So they'll understand when you explain how are you doing that?
Yeah. So first off, the reason I invest where I'm invested is because I think I have a competitive advantage in my market. I absolutely believe if this is my job, it is how I feed my family, it is to build generational wealth. So I have make no qualms about earning money doing what I do. I think that's super important. And I do think there's a lot of people, especially in small scale development, that kind of become like martyrs for, like I'm going to build this beautiful building, even though it's not going to make any money because I believe in beautiful architecture or whatever. I definitely believe that you have to strike a balance. The reason I do it in my local market is because I have a competitive advantage here. I know it better than anybody. And not only is it my local market, it's probably within 20 blocks of my local market that almost all of my investments are in. I want someone else to come in and try and do something because either they figured it out and they're going to do something great, or they're not going to get a foothold in this group in our downtown because we know it so well. So it's definitely a competitive advantage. But the reason that I think from a community, like building a better community perspective, all of my tenants live in downtown, they eat downtown. A lot of them are working in downtown. I can't hide from them. So I have to deliver a product that I'm willing to defend, and I'm willing to listen to someone walk up to me at lunch if they've got a problem and not having a problem telling me about it. And so it doesn't mean that I enjoy that, but it does hold me accountable to provide a product. It's just like, when a hater or a troll on Instagram who starts hating on you, but they would never tell you that to your face. Sometimes real estate development can be like that too. You'll throw something down to optimize your returns and not really think about how it's going to impact the community because you're never going to be in that community. You're never going to face those individuals. And so I think that investing locally ups the level of what I've got to do and be willing to support and commit to. And so how I do it is I am going to I basically optimize the land. So I can take, I think one of our first commercial developments, it was 20,000 square foot, and I built it on an 11,000 square foot piece of property. So I have really high density. I'm in downtown, so I don't have to have a whole bunch of parking. I don't have landscape requirements. I can build all the way. They want you to build all the way to the edge of the property, so it feels very urban. And so my cost of land compared to the building I can put on it is very low. And so there is definitely an economically feasible way to do it if you're in a market that they actually want the development. Now, if you ask any of your towns, they all say, yes, affordable housing is an issue. We need more houses. We want you to build here, but they don't always mean yes, because when you go to actually get permits or try and get the development done, you immediately run into why all the reasons they can't support what you're doing. So it's not like you can do what I'm doing anywhere, but you can definitely find markets where it absolutely makes sense and that what you're doing, the city wants it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So there are a couple things in there that I heard that I wonder, Susan, if you wanted to jump in. I love the idea of this like being in the community and being available to the people. I mean, we've been hearing so many stories, and I know a lot of Susan's clients too are real estate investors as well. So many stories of people kind of getting ahead of their skis a little bit and buying so much that they are throwing out stuff to get the investors a return, and it's not maybe the best product, or that they're just not necessarily operators, they're acquirers. Acquirers, that's not really a word, I just made it up, but that's what I mean. And so I know we hear people, they're sort of angsty right now, and they're running to me on the legal side, or they're running to Susan on sort of the emotional side of, oh my God, what do I do? Right. And I love the idea that you don't even ever have to worry about that, because you've got to build something that you've also got to look at, right, and talk to the people that are in it. And I think that's kind of exciting. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of fun. Recently I had, it was a little bit of a dig, right, that I would say like, oh, well, we're building places that you actually want to go visit. Like, you're not going to go stay in your apartment complex that you're investing in. You're not going to go stay in your self-storage place. You're not going to go stay in the mobile home park or whatever. And you might go visit, but I'm like, oh, so we're building stuff that, you want to go visit and enjoy and whatever, but you're doing both.
Yeah. And, I don't want it to be a dig against people who build a big apartment complexes and build box retailers. Because even though fundamentally I don't like that type of development, I totally know why they do it. I mean, they're doing it because that whole industry is driven by financial instruments. Like they have this investor money that needs to be placed, and it's not really about the real estate. It's about creating a financial instrument that they can then sell. And so I'm not like, I hate that type of development, but I'm not against them for doing it. I totally get it. And I see why they're doing it. But so, if we're real estate investors, I started out actually house flipping. And so I would go and find like the junkiest house all the way to the studs. Like I cannot do a marginal makeover because I want to like change everything to the way that I want. So it's going to go all the way to the studs. When we would come across some of these houses, they would just have so much character. They'd have the old wood trim still there, like maybe a brick chimney that you find when you demo a wall, like all this cool character. And you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta have this house. That's what I want to build. In a generation or two from now, when the next group of real estate investors come into our downtown, like I want them to drool at the properties we've built and be like, man, I just want to get my hands on that. Not to scrape it so they could build something from scratch, but because they want to embrace the character, maybe freshen it up and redo it. So that's the perspective or the lens I try and look through it. If it's my grandkids or great grandkids who are real estate investors, that their pride will be getting our projects. So just like when we see this really cool old house and we're like, oh my God, we got to keep that character and redo it. That's how we want people to visualize the projects that we're building, 50 years from now.
I love it. Susan, are you hearing? Are you hearing some of the? I can hear come out some of the Enneagram come out.
I was actually still not listening for that. I was just so like enthralled by the story because I love your idea, Katie, of investing where you're invested. So here's my question, if I may, is have you always known exactly what you want? I mean, I know you said that you also did flipping, which seems similar to me, but like, have you always known what you want?
Definitely not. So I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. The one thing I knew, I grew up very entrepreneurial. My family actually went through bankruptcy in the 80s because both my parents were in the real estate industry. And in Texas and Dallas, in Texas and California, they were hardest hit by the savings and loan crisis. And we lost everything. And I was a young kid who was in the 80s, and I was totally enthralled by why some people were totally building wealth and getting rich around us. And some people were losing everything, including us. I remember driving home on the school bus and seeing our ski boat in a junkyard and getting home and saying, why is our ski boat over there? Well, it's because it got repossessed, and that's where it ended up. And so I can put words to it now. At the time, I had no idea. I mean, I always knew I was a weird kid, but I had no idea I had like this fascination for wealth creation and all of that at the time. But I noticed these things going on, and I was just always interested in, always wanting to sell things of value. Give me a candy bar, a crappy, no name, no brand candy bar to sell for my softball team, not selling it. Like there was no value there. I hated selling that. But give me a cute puppy dog, like give me a litter of puppies, and like who doesn't want a companion? Like I could sell that. So I've always wanted to try and generate money and be an entrepreneur, but I didn't really know what that looked like. But I knew I wanted to go to college because I was the first one. That was always my path. Then I got out, went to be a banker. Actually loved that. Got to talk with people about money without the fear of talking to people about money. Like it was my job. So that made me not weird, but like what I was supposed to do. So I love that career path. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad like a lot of people. But the thing that it did for me is it made me realize my parents came from dirt poor. And what I realized through that book, it wasn't real estate that caused our bankruptcy. It was just that they outpaced their financial knowledge from where they came from. So when things were high, we were spending, buying, we had all kinds of stuff, but they just didn't have the financial understanding. And once I read that book and it put words into how money works for me, I was like, oh, now I can do real estate. Up until that point, I was scared to death of it because of what it had put us through. So I went and I was going to do low income housing. And like, the government's going to pay me. This is awesome. It was like in 2010-ish that I'd bought in a condo, but we started buying fourplexes in 2010 out of bankruptcy. They were vacant, get them all fixed up, put tenants in it, and immediately hated it. Totally hated it. Did not appreciate the clientele that we were renting to, but we did love getting them all fixed up. It wasn't white walls and cheap carpet. It was like it was inexpensive, but some spice, colored walls. Like when we would show it off, they're like, oh my gosh, a wall that isn't white. Like they really would appreciate what we had put into it. But the maintenance and the management of it, oh, I just hated it. I'm already a touch cynical. And that just made me cynical, not just in real estate, but in all facets of life. I was like cynical with my kids. I didn't trust anyone. I was like, everybody's lying to me about something. Just have to get to the bottom of it. So we were like, hey, if we like fixing it up, at this point, we probably had fourplexes. We're like, let's just sell them all. So we sold them all and we pivoted into the flipping. And that's how we started doing flipping. And our goal really was, let's find out what we're good at and what we love, what has a very good plan B, because I am super risk adverse, what has a really good plan B, and let's just let it lead us down a path. Well, it ended up, our plan B for flipping was you have to be able to rent the house and cover, at least break even, if you can't sell it. So that way, if there's a turn in the market, at least we know we can, put it in as a rental. Well, that totally threw out all the high-end houses and, the super nice neighborhoods. And it kept pushing us toward the blighted and revitalizing downtown. But that's where all the cool character was anyway. And then we started fixing them up, and like we won't sell before it's totally done because, well, we don't want to have to change stuff for people. And so we're like, take it or leave it kind of thing. And so but we would have a wait list. Like the second we would post about it, realtors would start reaching out to my business partner, who's also my mom, who's the realtor. And we just start keeping the list before, like, if I'm like, oh, we're going to get power for BTU, the realtor would call and say, hey, before y'all get power, can we come look at it? Like there was such a demand for it. And then we started officing in downtown, and we were like, you know what? It would be so fun to build something mixed use down here, to provide housing down here because there's no people down here. And then we started doing the economics, and we're like, these small businesses, they can't stay in business if there aren't people who shop down here because it makes the most sense. They cannot survive on a First Friday or some event. Like businesses need business every day of the week, not 2 or 3 times a month. And we're like, I get economic pattern. All of the commercial follows rooftops, but in a revitalizing downtown, it's reverse because the commercial is there, but all of the houses have been gutted, demoed, all the people have left the town. So our mission became, how can we put as many heads in beds that will be potential shoppers for the downtown that's being revitalized that everybody in the community loves? And I don't even think our city understands that really well. So, but that's fine. Y'all just do you. We're going to keep just bringing in the people. So we fight on every deal. I mean, I've probably only done 2 deals that are within zoning. Everything has to be rezoned. We try to optimize the number of people living there, give all different kinds of housing options, some with garages, some without, some that they can buy, some that they can rent, because a dynamic neighborhood is one that has homeowners, renters, visitors, commercial, all of that in my mind should be in one neighborhood and not zoned where only houses here and only industrial here and only retail here. Like it should all be blended and create like a thriving micro economy inside that neighborhood.
I love it. Do you guys so you said a mix of the visitors too. What's the Airbnb Verbo restrictions done? Has it impacted you at all then? If you have visitors, are you doing any short-term rentals?
Yeah. Right now we do rental arbitrage because that's like a business. And I love this, Bethany, because you're like, I love hospitality. I'm like, oh my God, just poke my eyes out now. I hate hospitality. And so we allow some people to Airbnb some of our lofts inside of our mixed use building, but we're actually breaking ground Monday on a 3-story building that 1 floor of that is going to be short-term rentals. So we've hired someone who will do all of the managing of that along with our other property management. So we'll see how it goes. But because we're downtown, we we won't be restricted by it because, I mean, you could have a hotel in downtown. You can have the zoning doesn't disqualify short-term rentals, which is the other thing I love about like a mixed use zoning. Cause I can do, you know, commercial retail on the first floor. I could do offices on the second floor and then lofts on the third floor. And if it turns out nobody wants office, I'll just convert those to lofts. And now I can put more people in there, you know, like you're not stuck into one use and trying to figure it out. You have the flexibility to make it what it needs to be to fit the demands in the market. And because hotels are allowed down here, they won't ever rule out short-term rentals. And I'm in a college town. So we're at home at Texas A&M University, which is the largest university in the country. So everything revolves around, well, those little pesky students. I love them. They make our economy thrive, but good Lord, parents, teach your kids to drive before they turn 18 and come to our town. That's my only plea. So short-term rental is a strong market here that's driven by the university and the college football and sports and all that.
Yeah. But any student housing? Sounds like no.
No. So I'm building a student housing project right now. It's a condo project. We're going to sell it all. It's right next to the university. I personally do not enjoy student housing because, for one, students don't want to live downtown. Professors don't want to live next to students. That makes the perfect market for us is staff and professors. So the nice thing about building in downtown is the amenity is downtown. So if you were to develop, you know, like an apartment complex, you got to build a gym, you're going to have to build a pool and have all of these amenities, a business center, but I don't have to do that. Every inch that I can make into rentable space is great because we got a gym downtown. We've got business centers downtown. So I don't have to spend any of that in common space. And so, you know, the students, they want lazy rivers and sand volleyball and all the things that we've equipped our spoiled children
As a
with.
student, I was I was like happy that the windows shut all the way. I don't
Yes,
know
it
what
is
students now are
so
asking for lazy rivers.
yes, it is so far the other extreme now. I mean, the stuff that they demand. So it's great. The professors do not want to be next to students. The students don't want to live here. And then the price point that we sell our houses, price per square foot is pretty high, but they're small footprint. So that means they don't have a lot of bedrooms. So they usually don't make economic sense to turn into a rental, which the professors love that because some investor's not going to come and buy a 2-bedroom, you know, 300,000 for us, depending on where you're at. That probably sounds cheap, but $300,000 townhome with 2 bedrooms and try and, you know, make that a financial return on a rental. So we've kind of carved out the niche for that.
It sounds like you've thought it all the way through. I think that's
We've
amazing.
experienced it all the way through. I know I
Sure.
wish we would have thought of it all ahead, but we've just learned as we've
Great.
gone and we've figured it out.
Entrepreneurial way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.